Remarkably, the area that Debbie grew up in, the Rio Grande Valley, now has as its congresswoman a Republican, Mayra Flores, who's been on this podcast. And Mayra Flores is now running in a district that's been redistricted. And she's running against this guy named Vicente Gonzalez. And he's a Democratic congressman. So you've sort of got two incumbents. Now, Mayra Flores just got elected, so she's an incumbent in the sense that she will have been in office really only for a couple of months. So it's going to be a hard-fought race and a race with national implications. And as it turns out, there have been some very racist and vicious attacks on Mayra Flores coming from a South Texas blogger named Jerry McHale. He puts out a blog called the McHale Report. So, honey, give a little bit of a flavor of the kind of things he's been saying about Mayra.
Number one, I'm going to accuse Jerry McHale of being a racist. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do. Second thing is apparently his bloggers wrote some really just horrific things. Not just Miss Frijoles, which is bad enough. Cotton picking liar. Okay, Princess Pozole. I don't know what that is, but anyway. Miss Menudo, which if you are Hispanic, Mexican, you know what a menudo is. It's one of those little, pots with, it's kind of like Creole food, but it's for the, our people. Mm-hmm. And then goes on to say things like, does Flores want Trump to come and take her pee, I mean, I don't even want to say
referring to her sex organs.
Yes. Yeah. And then she isn't even in the Bush leagues unless she doesn't shave her. I mean, just horrible things. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're disgusting.
Now, remarkably, Vicente Gonzalez, the Democratic congressman, has been paying this guy. So, in other words, he has been giving him money to advertise, so to speak, to have this guy attack Mayra Flores and promote his candidacy.
Right, but on Facebook, he says that he's severing all ties and that, he will receive his original $1,200 because he has never spoken to these people. So basically, they're defending him. They're saying he had nothing to do with these blogs, is what they're saying. Because this man, Jerry McHale, who is a racist, as I said before, seems to think that Mayra Flores is, a conspiracy theorist. I mean, he even...
Well, here's Mayra. I'm disgusted that Vicente Gonzalez has hired a creepy blogger to attack my Mexican heritage and sexually degrade me. But I won't let this distract me from my work. Vicente Gonzalez is an example of everything wrong with Washington. So... I think the way to read this is that the Democrats are really frightened of Mayra Flores. They're frightened about the Hispanic desertion of the Democratic Party. And they realize that they have to stop it. But how can they stop it? They're not going to close the border. They're not going to create economic opportunity. They're not going to. So they're not able to address the core issues of concern to Latinos, Latinas, Hispanics.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they go, let's go after Mayra. Let's just smear her personality. Let's degrade her. And let's hope that people recoil from her.
And then he goes on. He says, Republicans are traitors and are still intent on destroying our democracy despite their failed coup on that infamous January 6th day. We intend to toss Flores on the trash heap of history.
So let's pause right there. I want to just analyze that last phrase because, it is an historical illusion. In fact, the concept of the trash heap of history was used by Reagan. He was talking about we will leave communism on the trash heap of history. But notice how used in this context, it has a whole different meaning because what it's doing is it's basically saying, what are Hispanics good for? Well, they sweep. They're basically sweepers. So trash is associated with Mayra. And number two, she's trash. So we'll leave her on the trash heap of history is that she belongs with the trash. That's really where this guy is going. So this is a nasty character. Now, to my knowledge, he hasn't withdrawn or apologized for what McHale I'm talking about. But the Vicente Gonzalez people are like, look, this is starting to look bad for us.
Oh, yeah. No, but you remember when I said, that when I was little, when I moved to the Valley, I was 10, I would get these like snarky little remarks of people like, oh, you're a wetback. And I was like, I'm not a wetback. I flew here. You know, I would get really defensive, right? But interestingly, it would come from other Mexican Americans, not Anglos, right? So when we were talking about, you know, Gonzalez basically attacking Flores, I was like, okay, well, it's one Hispanic attacking another who actually came from Mexico, right? So he feels superior because she was born there. But it turns out that this is an Anglo guy, this blogger. So he's definitely racist. He's not Hispanic.
And then look, you know what's going on behind the scenes. So the Gonzalez people are going to call this guy and go, listen, you know what? We're not saying not to keep doing what you're doing. We're just saying we can't publicly be associated with it. So you're going to have to refund the money we paid you because it's making us look bad. And this guy's like, yeah, look, I totally understand. I'm only speaking for myself. I'll keep going. Yeah, you keep going. So behind the scenes, they're not apologetic. They just don't like the fact that the strategy backfired.
Oh, do they ever?